Families, are you parenting a child on the autism spectrum? Is your child minimally speaking? Maybe they use a communication device. They're amazing, right? But maybe they're struggling at school and you're looking for some options. Well, you're in the right place if you can answer yes to any of those questions. My name is Crystal Sanford, and I'm your host for the Lunch and Learn, sponsored by Sanford Autism Advocacy Group. And our topic today is you can homeschool your nonverbal autistic child. I have the honor of having our guest today, Heather Anderson. Thanks so much for being here, Heather.
Oh, you bet, Crystal. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure to have you here to talk about this topic. Super important, and I'm so excited to hear where you are now. So,
Oh,
uh,
we're doing great.
yeah, yeah, amazing. For those of you who maybe not as familiar with us, welcome today and thank you for joining us. Again, my name is Crystal Sanford. I am your host. I am also a special education advocate in the Southern California area. I'm also an autism parent, like many of you, and I also serve as a speech pathologist. And I also have a podcast. So I do a lot of things. In a podcast that episode that I had the honor of taping a couple of years ago was with Heather around this topic, the topic of homeschooling the autistic child, especially those who have greater needs. And the time that we met at then was just on the heels of the pandemic, right? And so it was 2021, and it was amazing. And that episode has been the most popular episode on our YouTube channel. So if you're interested, you can check out Thriving Special Families on YouTube, as well as Thriving Autism Families. And so I have been thinking, wow, it would be so awesome to hear about where Heather is now. Where are the kiddos now? Heather has an amazing program for kiddos and for families who are looking at other options. So Heather was gracious enough to be my guest again today, and I'm so again honored to have her here. For those of you who are joining us live, again, thank you and welcome. Feel free to add your comments to the comment section, and we'll do our best to answer those live today. And for those of you who are joining us with the recording, feel free to add a comment. We do monitor that, and we'll get back to you as well with a response. And so Heather Anderson is an amazing mom and an educator. She has developed a program that is specifically for families who are looking to homeschool their child, like her own son, who is minimally speaking and on the autism spectrum. And so Heather, tell us a little bit about your life story. What brought you to the space of creating this educational program? Because I know that education was not your first career.
No, not at all. Like a lot of moms of non-speaking autistic students, I had a promising career before I had to quit and become a full-time caregiver. I'm a journalist and a marketer by trade. I was in banking journalism. I covered the last banking crisis. This one's very interesting to me to observe. And I had worked my way up to a position as an editor of a banking newspaper in Washington, D.C., and had achieved a bit of fame in my industry. Around that time, my son turned 3 years old or so, and we sent him off to preschool. Within a week, he was kicked out.
Oh,
And the preschool said, you know, we aren't doctors, we aren't here to diagnose anyone, but you should probably have him screened for autism. He's not a bad boy. This isn't behavioral, this is physical. Like a lot of parents, I was
say
like,
something right there because you had a good experience with that. And unfortunately, we hear too many situations in families who have not, who have had their child kicked out of preschool and who have been told your child is a bad child. They don't fit in here. They don't belong. So just amazing. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I had to say
oh
that.
no, the ladies were marvelous. And we lived in, of course, Northern Virginia at the time, and they referred us to, you
Mm,
know, the federal program that so many of us have sent our kids to that are usually hosted at the public school, the
mhm.
preschool, the ABA-based preschool. We at that point, moved back to California, better services here. A career in Washington, D.C. requires all of your time and all of your energy. And I just, could tell that my son was going to require more care than that. So we moved back to Southern California. And because I had achieved a bit of, fame and notoriety in my industry, it was pretty easy for me to get high paying marketing and writing gigs in the banking industry. So that worked out well. I was making pretty good money, working part-time, taking care of my son, made the decision to start homeschooling him. Everything was going great. And then the pandemic hit. And one thing about banks is that they will trim the fat as soon as the economy turns south. So I went from making, $5,000-$6,000 a month to $750 a month, like overnight. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I had to do something. I'm a single mom, had to hustle, and luckily I have great entrepreneurial skills. And I looked around at what was happening with all of the parents whose kids had been sent home because of the pandemic, in particular those who have kids in mod to severe special day classes. And I noticed a couple things. First of all, the parents were absolutely mortified at the lack of academics that they were seeing through the live stream school. Like, why are we counting the spots on the ladybug? This is a kid who can, count to 100 at home. Why are you making him count to 5? Like, this doesn't make sense. And also, the parents were really struggling with helping their student learn remotely and, knowing how to work with them. The parents aren't educators either, And so I looked at this and I said, I have a homeschool program already that I've developed. All I have to do is digitize it, and I need an income. So I used the skills that I had gained as a journalist. As an editor, I was running the website, so I knew how to build a website. I knew SEO. I knew how to send out emails that got responses, that sort of thing. So, and I also knew as a journalist how to vet material and go through and, take the good stuff and disregard what doesn't work, and then repackage it and present it in a way that makes sense to people. So I was able to use those skills to create this program, and it has grown steadily since. I mean, I went to market with a full program for the first time in fall of 2021, and we currently have about 200 students. And I think we keep doubling each year, so I'm looking at probably being up to 400, maybe 500 students by the end of the year.
Oh, so amazing. And for those of you who are just joining us, welcome again to our Lunch and Learn sponsored by Sanford Autism Advocacy Group. And our topic today is homeschooling for the nonverbal autistic child. And I have the pleasure of having Heather Anderson here, the creator of this program. And I had the pleasure of coming alongside you early on in 2021 when you were just launching the program, as so many of us were still, scrambling and trying to figure out what would work for our families. And so now this program, you've grown so much. Tell us maybe a bit of a summary or a synopsis of what the program entails.
Of course. So Nonverbal Autism Homeschool is a complete homeschool package. So it's designed for anyone in any state in the US. The curriculum meets national educational standards. So we provide curriculum for reading, math, science, social studies, and art. I additionally have an extra optional module that you can add to that teaches Proloquo, teaches the parent how to work with the app, model the app, and teach their students so they essentially become the speech language pathologist. And as you know, Crystal, as a former SLP, having that reinforcement at home with the parent also modeling and knowing how to use the device makes all the difference. I sell my program in packages of 1 semester at a time. I do all of the lesson planning. So I don't just throw a semester's worth of material at you and say, okay. I divide it up into 18 weeks and then I divide it by day.
Oh my gosh,
All you
amazing.
have to do is download it, watch the instructional videos that I provide, and
Mhm.
teach. It's also a 4-day-a-week program because none of our severe kids have 5 days in a row in them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
we just plan around that. And also, all students are encouraged to move at their own pace. So you don't have to finish in 18 weeks. You can
Okay.
take as long as you need. Some weeks our kids are on fire, some
Mhm.
weeks their brain is on fire, and they're not going to do it. Plus, people move, parents get deployed, especially in San Diego. Um,
Mhm.
so the idea is to build a strong academic foundation
Wow.
from which they can build upon, move forward.
So, something that you shared earlier, and thank you for giving us that overview. Something you shared earlier was parents were just really dismayed and disheartened by the lack of rigor in the education that their child was experiencing at school. And I think a lot of families maybe aren't even aware of that so often. And in our work as special as education advocates, we get parents who are disgruntled, who are maybe just questioning, unsure. But there is unfortunately a disparity in the level of academic expectation for our kids who don't have verbal output. And it's
Oh,
very
yeah.
unfortunate. Yeah. And I'm sure
Yeah.
you've seen that. And that's where kind of the root of the program came from.
Yeah, that was my own experience with my son. He's a bright boy. I don't think he's a genius. He
Sure.
might be, but he has at least average intelligence,
Mhm.
probably above average intelligence.
Yeah.
Catches on quickly,
Mhm.
and I would pick him up from public school each day, and they would give me the usual report. He used the potty. He ate all his
Mhm.
snack. He didn't hit anybody or whatever. And I'd say, "Great. What did he learn?"
Yeah.
And they just look at me like, "What do you mean? What did he
Right.
learn?"
Uh-huh.
Your expectations are unreasonable. And that was unacceptable to me because
Mm.
their job is to educate. I'm
Yes.
sending them there to get an education. And it seems like in most public school special ed classrooms, the only standard is behavioral.
Yes.
And I understand. I've never met a special ed teacher who did not want their students to achieve.
Yes.
A lot of them don't presume competence because that's what they've been taught,
Yes.
but, they all want them to move forward. They just don't receive, the resources that they need from the administration, and so they're left to just do the best that they can, and in most cases, that's keep the peace.
Yes.
And so it's just a broken system. It's really no teacher's fault. Oftentimes, it's not even the administration's fault because they don't have the level of financial support from the state and the federal government. So um,
Yeah, it is unfortunate, and I talk about that in the classes that I teach for families that the system is broken, and it is, like you said, not one person's fault. Sometimes it's philosophy too. It's paradigm. It's like you said, just not understanding and the not understanding that we should presume competence for all of our kiddos, and that we should try first. And then, if we're seeing some level of difficulty, then you can always kind of titrate back. But we should try. We should try because it's an educational system for all kids, as you said. That's really the spirit of the law, special education law IDA, is that all kids have access to learning in light of their unique needs. And it's unfortunate the way it's set up currently that all kids aren't accessing that. Um, but we do have programs like your own. And so, who would be the ideal child for a program like yours?
the ideal child, is one who is not making academic progress in school, but the parents know they're intelligent. They
Mm,
know they have more to offer.
okay.
The program is designed for nonverbal or minimally verbal students,
Okay.
but we've also had luck with students who are verbal but have learning difficulties.
Mhm.
And a lot of our minimally verbal students can speak, but they're not conversational.
Right.
And then there's students who, can't speak at all.
Okay.
All of those children do well in the program.
Great. And what ages or grade levels would it be appropriate for?
So I currently have kindergarten, first grade, and second grade academic levels.
Okay.
The semester's finished. I'm adding third grade in the fall.
All right.
But the ages of the students are all over the place. I have 5-year-olds in the program. I have a 30-year-old in the program.
Oh,
Um, and
precious.
we have a lot. Yeah, we have a gentleman who is able to spell to communicate.
Mhm.
And one of the things that he asked his mother was to improve his reading ability. So she enrolled him in my course. I have a 20-year-old as well who had never made any academic progress whatsoever.
Mhm.
He's doing great.
Oh, amazing.
And then we have some 5-year-olds who are just getting, started right off the bat and are going to be given the opportunity to pretty much keep up with their peers.
Oh, that's amazing. And it's unfortunate for the older people who are in your program, but it is awesome that there's still hope, right? And so if there are parents who are watching or listening who might think, oh my God, my kid is a teenager now. They've never had access to anything like this. It's not too late, as you're hearing, for you to be able to access a curriculum that would put some academic expectations for your child and help them to build some competence in this area.
Oh, yeah. Severe nonverbal autism is a marathon, not a sprint. They're going to be with us for probably the rest of their lives. They're at least going to need some form of support.
Mhm.
So, it's never too late to give them the academic foundation they need to not get ripped off, be
Yes.
able to communicate whether or not someone is hurting them. Just even those basics,
Mhm.
what we would think of as life skills need an academic foundation as well.
Wow. Okay, that's so good because that's what I think what schools might say is that, well, and I hear it a lot, especially as an advocate. Well, this mod severe program or this, special day class focuses on life skills. But I love what you just said. Even life skills, there needs to be a foundation of academic, of understanding to some degree.
Whenever I hear that they're teaching life skills, I want to say, stay in your lane. Your lane is education.
Right.
My lane as a parent is life
Yes.
skills, and they say, well, the parents aren't teaching them life skills. Well, how do you know? Maybe the student isn't performing for you the
Yeah.
way they perform at home because you're approaching them in the wrong way. Or,
Mhm.
classrooms are a very difficult environment for students that receive a lot
Mhm.
of sensory data.
Yes.
There's a bunch of things on the walls and overhead lighting that buzzes and echoing halls. And, I remember even myself as, a very mildly autistic kid,
Mhm.
being able to walk past a classroom and feeling if there was a television on in that room, just like I was like, oh.
Uh-huh.
And to think that my son probably receives 10 times the sensory
Yes.
input that I did,
Yes.
it's no wonder he would struggle in a classroom. And so I think the whole structure of public school for our kids just needs massive reform. And unfortunately, government reform takes forever. Our children will be grown by the time any of this reform happens. And so, unfortunately, as parents, we're faced with, oftentimes having to do it ourselves.
Yeah, wow. And kudos to you for seeing that need, and pivoting in such a time during the pandemic to create this program. And again, if you are just joining us, feel free to leave your comments in the comment section. We'll do our best to answer those today. So if you would like to get your question answered live, feel free to do that. And also note that our show is sponsored by the Sanford Autism Advocacy Group, and we work with autism families to make sure that your child gets the education that they deserve. You can always reach out to us at SD, like San Diego, autismhelp.com. And so, Heather, I know we've talked about the ideal student for your program. Who is the ideal parent? What does a parent need to implement this program? Because I could hear some parents thinking, like yourself, I'm not an educator. That is not my jam. That's why I send my kid to school. But I know my kid has potential. Do I have what it takes to be able to be their teacher?
The answer is a parent is actually the best teacher for a severely autistic student. And here's why.
No.
Parents know when to push, when
Mm,
the student's done,
mhm.
when they're just pointing at an answer to get you off their back,
Okay.
what motivates them. And those are really the most important tools when it comes to teaching. Teaching is absolutely a talent and a skill, but it's not rocket science. Especially with my program. I provide over 200 videos in each semester that show you exactly how to use the materials with your student. And in addition, we have twice weekly live Zoom meetings with an experienced special education teacher who can answer all of their questions. We also have a great community of parents, very bright parents. Most of our moms are geniuses themselves and come up with the best hacks and solutions and ideas on how to work with the students. So the technique is really not the issue. We can provide that. It's learning how to work with your student, which is something you're going to have to learn anyway. Of those families that just send the kids to school until they're 22, and then once they hit 22, they come home and there's no program for them, and suddenly they're home all day. Our parents, our families don't have that problem. We work that out earlier. Through homeschooling, you learn how to work with your student and help them perform and help them to push outside their comfort zone and be the best that they can be. And in response, the student really appreciates being seen as a whole intelligent person, and they trust the parent more. They're more willing to try. We overcome a lot of anxiety on the part of the students, build up their self-esteems, and yeah, all you have to do, honestly, is be a parent, and you can do this.
Oh, that's so good. Okay, there's hope. Okay, families, there is hope for us if education is not something that is, something that you are trained in. Just naturally knowing your child, something I always say is, ask questions, trust your gut. You know your child. You are the expert in your child. And with this really skilled, detailed program, sounds like you can do it.
We have, the special ed teacher that we work with. He has been a special ed teacher in the classroom for 33 years, but he also, he and his wife homeschooled their 5 children from middle school on up. So he knows both sides of that coin. And he says all the time, like every single time in our live Zoom meetings, that an average parent following a plan can achieve so much more with their student in an hour or two than he can all day long in a classroom.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing to hear from a person with such experience, and so beautiful that he has experience on both sides of that table of having homeschooled and taught. So, that's words you can trust.
Absolutely.
So Heather, tell us about maybe a success story. I'd love to hear about maybe a family that came to you and you just really seen blossom with your program.
All right. Actually, I'll tell 2 quick stories because our successful students often follow one of these 2 paths. The first success story is a boy named Will, who came to me at age 6. His mom is an experienced homeschooler, but Will was nonverbal and also diagnosed with an intellectual disability. So mom thought, you know what? I'm not really qualified for this. I should probably send him to public school. So she sent him to public school where he was assaulted by the staff. He had a meltdown and they dogpiled him at age 6. And he was so traumatized by that, he refused to set foot in the school ever again. And she had to homeschool him. So she started with my program and got immediate results. Immediately. Like the great thing about my program is that it's designed so that students can show what they know. If they can't speak, if they can't write, there are other ways to assess competence. So Will took to it right away, breezed through the first semester of kindergarten, skipped the second half of kindergarten, went straight to first grade, zoomed through first grade, and is now doing mainstream work at grade level. And mom learned from my program how to work with him. So she doesn't need me anymore. He's out of my program and off doing mainstream work. Let's talk about a girl in our program named Sophia. Sophia is 11 years old. She really struggles with work. She cannot sit down and work at a table. It's very difficult for her. She has a lot of motor planning issues. It's difficult for her to point even at the right answer. She can't do matching. There's a lot that Sophia can't do.
Okay.
Her mom is an excellent homeschooler. Like this woman has the most brilliant ideas.
Mhm.
And so she attended one of our Zoom meetings and was talking about the problems that she was having with Sophia. And so we got on the subject of active ways to teach, ways to teach that don't require sitting down and attending to a tabletop.
Okay.
And so she came away from that meeting thinking, what if I took the workbook and took the sheet out and cut it into strips? So she did that, and she taped up one problem in each room,
Aha.
and then there would be a problem, and then underneath it, like she started in the bedroom, and then underneath the problem was run to the bathroom, and they would run to the bathroom, and the second question would be there, and then run to the kitchen, and they would run to the kitchen and find, it was like a treasure hunt. Sophia got 80% correct on the first try.
Oh my gosh, amazing.
And if mom had tried to work with her on a tabletop with that exact same worksheet,
Yeah.
she would have had, she would have gotten nothing but a meltdown.
Mhm.
So,
Wow.
there are, with some kids require a lot of modification to the materials, but we have a lot of students who do their work standing up.
Right.
We have another mom, the mom of the 20-year-old, puts his stuff on like a clothesline so that he can stand up and look at it straight on.
Okay.
And doing that, he can point to the right answer. Put it on a table, he can't do it.
Wow. Wow. And so much flexibility and, creative mind sounds like these moms, but there is room for that when you are homeschooling, right?
Yes, you don't have to maintain order. You're not herding cats like
Yes.
they are, in a special day class. And so you can have that flexibility in the homeschool environment. And my program also allows you to produce the samples that you need to satisfy the state regulators.
Oh, great. So, I mean, that's, I know, maybe a concern for some families is if I homeschool my child, will they get the same level of an education that they would get in a public school, or are they going to meet requirements and such things? Even though, it feels like in some of the public schools, they're probably not meeting
They
standards either.
absolutely are not, but no parent wants to get in trouble with the law.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. So your program, feels that as well.
Absolutely, yeah. We have students in some states where the parent has to go before the local board of education and show, progress with the student, and we have that with $9
Oh, that's so wonderful. All right. So, Heather, and as we're wrapping up here, what do you have to say for the parent that says, this sounds great. Yes, I have a child that fits this profile. I'd love to try it, but I just can't do this. What is your response to that parent?
You have nothing to lose.
Mm,
If your student is not making any progress in
mhm,
public schools,
mhm.
you aren't going to suffer any loss if you pull them and try.
Wow.
They can always go back. The public school is required by law to take them
Yeah.
back. And, we tried it. It didn't work. I sent my son back. Nope. I decided I didn't want that. I was willing to try it again. And there was no animosity. There was no,
Mm.
they didn't treat him poorly. They didn't treat me poorly. So I would say, one way to find.
Wow, nothing to lose. I love it. And for those of you who maybe joined us later, again, we have Heather Anderson here, the developer of the Nonverbal Autism Homeschool program. And Heather has developed this program for children who are minimally speaking or non-speaking. There's even a piece of it where that there's training on the Prolo Quo to Go, which being SLP, by training, that makes me feel good and brings joy, because there's so many parents that struggle with that, and there's not enough school-based SLPs who are providing training in that area. So I love that your program offers that. And so if you are looking for an alternative program for your child, this could be something to consider. And we have a question here from one of our parents who's listening and watching. She says that, will your program work for a different communication program, a different AAC program, for example, touch chat versus Prolo Quo to Go?
I was hoping to say touch chat. Touch chat is a lot like Proloquo. So touch chat works great. LAMP, not as much.
Okay.
There are two basic operating systems for communication devices. One is the Proloquo touch chat way, where all of the words are available to the student and it's organized by parts of speech. LAMP and programs like it are predictive, right? So if your student wanted to communicate that they wanted something to eat, in Proloquo and touch chat, they can go to the food folder and all of their foods are there. In LAMP, they have to touch eat, and then the choices will come up, and the choices are often quite limited to what the SLP wants in there or the parent wants in there, whereas Proloquo has all of the foods, right? So that's the one I prefer.
Okay, great. And great to know. Maybe that's something for parents to consider as they're looking at alternative, communication programs that, some of these other ones could be a better fit. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think a lot of times kids are given speaking apps that are below their ability. They're given a couple of buttons. They plan to expand later, but usually that doesn't happen.
Yes.
And then there's a period where the student receives a lot of audio feedback from the device. It appears that they're just skimming on the words, but they're actually going through a very important stage of development. They say something for the first time and get that feedback. So they're going through that, and a lot of times the therapist, school, or whatever says, well, they don't understand how to use it because they're just babbling, and they take it away, or they don't add extra words. And I believe that students should be, unless they have a very severe fine motor skill problem, unless they have maybe some cerebral palsy or something where they just need just a few big buttons. I think they need the standard, in Proloquo, it's 11:7 screen. I tell parents, can your child navigate YouTube? Oh yeah, they're great at YouTube. Then they can figure out Proloquo.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Because, our kids can figure that out.
Yes, kids can figure out technology.
Yes, that highly motivating, technology. So if so, then Proloquo to go sounds wonderful. Here's another question as we're wrapping up here. And I was going to ask this, so thank you for bringing this up again, Smita, is can we share the program with our school district? Is that an option? Let us know, Heather.
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I do have school districts who have purchased the program and are using it in the classroom.
Awesome.
So I'm also in the process of getting on board with the state school choice funds. So we were recently approved by Arizona. So for those of you watching from Arizona, if you use that ESA fund, soon you'll be able to use it to directly purchase my program rather than be reimbursed. So we have received approval, from official educators that the program is sound. In addition, any parent who purchases the program, I will give their therapist a login for free.
Oh, that's so great.
That consistency is so important. So if your student attends an ABA center and does some of their learning there, we can give your BCBA a login. I love giving logins to SLPs, because as you mentioned, there's a kind of a lack of training for a lot of SLPs. And so it's fun to have, them get on board as well. And yes, absolutely. If the teacher is willing to use the materials, by all means, I would, my ultimate goal is that my business is never needed. That schools adopt the way that we're doing things and make it more successful for students, and my business goes away because there's no longer a need to fill.
Oh gosh, I feel the same way. We say the same thing about our advocacy. Our goal is to work ourselves out of a job. We want to empower families. We want to bridge that gap between home and school so that parents don't have to hire advocates to make sure that their voice is heard at the table, right? So same thing here, that kids would just naturally have access to a quality education regardless of their learning environment. Like that's ideal. But in the meantime, there's Heather's program, so that you can see your child really rise to their potential and grow. We have another question, and I'm sure we could be here for another hour answering questions. But what does it matter by state? I know you've mentioned like Arizona, other states. We have a parent watching from Washington.
All right. So every state has different homeschool regulations. With 200 students, we have at least one in nearly every state in the country. We have a few in Washington State. I would recommend visiting the HSDLA, Homeschool, HSLDA, Homeschool Legal Defense Association, .org. They have a marvelous website where you can look at all of the state regulations by state.
Okay.
And so you go in, click on the US map, find your state, and then they have a bunch of free blog posts that you can read about how to withdraw your student from school. What regulations do you need to meet? Are there any special education things that you need to know about? So that's where I send everyone if they're confused about what they need to do to get started and meet the regulations in their state.
Perfect. Wonderful. And so last question is, Heather, what if parents have more questions? How can they contact you? How can they learn more? I know we have, parents are wanting to know how to talk to their school district or program about it. And I'm sure you're very well versed in how to support parents along this journey. So how can families reach out to you?
They can visit my website, which is www.theautismoasis.com. On my website, there's a lot of information about the program. You can also watch a video tour of the program. You can also sign up for a free Zoom consultation with me where we could talk specifically about your student and your family's needs and decide whether or not the program is a good fit. And if it is a good fit, at what academic level your student belongs. And then, of course, if you get started and you find that your student needs to move up, about a third of my students end up moving up a level because they're finally able to show what they know. I can do that free of charge. There's usually, kind of a adjustment period there. And you can message me on social media, send me an email. I spend all day long chatting with parents and providing advice.
So great. So great. Well, thank you, Heather, for being here with us today and sharing about your program and about the potential, really reminding us of the potential that our kiddos have, especially our kiddos who typically aren't as challenged, who may be nonverbal autistic students in public schools. And as we shared in the title, you can homeschool your nonverbal autistic child, and Heather is the one who can help you with that. So thank you again, Heather.
Oh, yeah. I just, before we go, I just want to encourage every parent to really consider that their student is competent and is intelligent. Every Monday morning, I send out an email to everyone who's signed up on my email list, and I profile an inspirational non-speaking autistic adult, somebody who went to college and is achieving great things. And, a lot of these folks do the same stimming as our kids do, or, I've seen them on online panels and they're up walking around the room, or they're doing this in front of their face, and you would look at them and you would think, there's no way that they're paying attention or that there's intelligence there. And then the moderator will ask them a question and they'll make it over to their keyboard, and out comes the most insightful, intelligent, amazing communication that you can imagine. And you look at them and then you look at your student and you go, wow, that's a roadmap. Like, now I know kind of how to reverse engineer their life.
Yeah.
And the first step is an academic foundation. And most of those successful non-speaking adults were homeschooled at some point to get started.
Okay. Well, sounds like it's the way to go. And again, parents, if you're looking to learn more, you can always connect with Heather at theautismoasis.com. The link is here in the comments. And if you have questions or concerns about special education, if you are continuing with your child in the public school, always feel free to reach out to the Sanford Autism Advocacy Group at SD, like San Diego, autismhelp.com. I'm your host, Crystal Sanford. I'm a mom like you. I'm an advocate. I'm a speech pathologist, and I'm so happy that you've been here with us as we've discussed homeschooling the nonverbal autistic child. We hope you both, all of you, have a wonderful, wonderful rest of your day. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.